What is going on, everybody? I am here today with Jason Baggett, who is going to be heading up the Arkansas Outdoor Expo. That's coming up in January of 27. He and I have connected recently, and we've got to spend some time having some conversations together. And he's got some big things coming up. Jason, I appreciate you taking the time to hop in with me.
Tyler, I'm honored to be here, buddy. Thank you.
Absolutely. So obviously I talked about the outdoor expo, but I'd like to get a little bit of a background on who you are first and your love for the outdoors, obviously.
I, I mean, it's not, it's not one of those stories. It's filled with glitz and glamour. I mean, I'm just a small town Arkansas kid who wet a line in any creek and pond, and grew up in a drugstore, listening to the older generation tell me fish tales, and I mean, literally ate up with it. I'm an angler. I'm a fan. I'm a collector. I can't get enough of it. And what was really interesting about it is that we would always come home from church and on Sundays, and man, I was that little fat redneck kid, piled in front of the wooden console TV, and waiting for Bob Cobb to come on for Bassmaster, and mom's cooking lunch. And I mean, those are fond memories of mine. And then I remember seeing in the local newspaper that a guy that I went to church with was making the Bassmaster Classic, or he had qualified for the Classic. And it blew my mind. And so I sought him out, and we made a deal when I was, pretty young, that he would teach me everything that he knew about bass fishing as long as I drove him wherever he wanted to go. And I mean, man, we fished all over, and I got to see both the business side of fishing and the fishing side of it. And he's 78 now, and he'll call me like, "Hey, I want to go here," and I'll leave. I mean, so that handshake that happened years ago is still ringing true to this day. And I mean, I can't get enough of it. I mean, whether it's collecting old lures or minnow traps or just whatever, man, I just dearly love it.
Yeah, man. I think that you have to be if you can be lukewarm about some things, or you can be boiling hot. You know what I mean? And I'm on fire
Absolutely.
for fishing too. Whether it be reading about it or watching videos on TikTok or YouTube, or obviously even I'm telling on myself, but man, AI can process data so much more quickly than we can. You can go in AI and it can go back to all the tournaments in your area and find results on things from whether it's
Yeah.
Facebook or things like that, the areas that they were catching them, and it can help you find some of that stuff. So um, if you're eat up with bass fishing, AI is a great tool to have now. But man, yeah, that's how I spend a lot of my time too. So obviously, you grew up having a great love for bass fishing. And and somehow you've turned that into thinking that you want to have a giant outdoor expo. So tell me what kind of went into all that.
Well, it started years ago. I kind of went into the bass fish. I'm a prelude. Go back to the preluding question just a little bit. So I went into this passion for fishing, thinking I've got to get more diplomas to afford to fish. And so I mean, I've got all the diplomas anybody would want for any career, and I messed up because I didn't dive in soon enough. I didn't take that jump, and I preach, and I preach to people, just take the jump. But anyways, I was fortunate enough to get on a pro staff, a true pro staff, not none of this 10% off junk. Um, and the manager, the pro staff manager, me and him are still good friends to this day, and he taught me a lot of the business side of it. And so that kind of segued into my first real time, first paying job in the industry. And man, I got to know people. I mean, you name it, they would come by the booth, and I never got the starstruck mentality. I mean, they put their shoes on just like me. But the more shows that I worked, I truly love that environment, the camaraderie, the small town type feeling that I grew up with. Everybody's there to help each other, to either have a good show or to connect with, with people, meets and greets. And man, I've worked ICAST, I've worked ATA, I've worked them all, and they're all the same. And 2 years ago, well, not 2 years ago, October 2024, I was actually headed to a tournament in Arkansas at Lake Washita, and I was listening to Serious Angler podcast, one of my favorite podcasts, and they had the guy from Russell Marine Products, and something just going down the road when I was listening to that guy, it just clicked. It's like, why have you not done this? And being the serial entrepreneur that I am, I pulled over and I called my wife. I said, "Hey, what do you think about doing an outdoor show?" She's like, "I can't believe you hadn't done it already." So I get to the tournament and I did pretty well in that tournament. But on the way back, I was making calls. I'm like, "What do you think?" And everybody's like, "Go, go, green light, green light." And that's kind of how it started. It was literally started from a podcast.
Man, and sometimes it doesn't matter what it is. You'll get that idea, and you'll have a little inspiration. And you and I have talked about an idea that I've had
Yes.
recently, and I don't want to spill any of that just yet. But that mine was the same way. It just hit me all of a sudden. And so it's gone from basically an idea to a concept to now it's in motion. Can you kind of tell me what that process has been like?
Yeah, sure. So I'm real big on coming from a marketing background. I want things to look good. I want things to be tight, professional, because how I worked myself in the outdoor industry is with a good reputation. I wanted people to when they shook my hand, I wanted them to know I'm going to take care of them. But I got real lucky. I got real blessed real early. Actually, it was right after Thanksgiving of 2024. I posted a deal on Instagram, and the next morning I had a message from a web developer. And of all the things in business, I'm more leery about it's web developers, because just I've been burned so many times. But this guy's like, "I'm all in. Tell me what you want." And his name is Jeremy Price, which I did a podcast last week with him, and he sent me this framework, and it still to this day blows me away how he visualized the website. And then after that, man, we just got the ball rolling. People were calling us and like, "Hey, you got to tell us more about this," because Fort Smith, Arkansas hasn't had an outdoor show in a good number of years. And I've even been told it won't work. So I'm like, game on. That's all you needed to tell me. I need that push, and then we went to, social media. That's how everything is going these days. But what was really interesting about it was what was helping us was also killing us. Facebook did not help me at all. And that's ultimately led to why we had to postpone it this year, because it was originally planned for January 16th and 17th of this year. But Facebook did not help us. They really hindered us. So we're postponing it a year, and it's been a godsend. We've had more people reach out to us after we announced the postponement, like, "What happened?" And so I tell them the story, and they're like, "We want in. We want in right now." So that's kind of the short story.
Yeah, well, that's a blessing, man, to have
It
all those
really is.
people. And man, I'll tell you, I know you can network from the short time that I've known you because of I'll ask you a question about something, you'll be like, "Well, I can. Well, you want to talk to this guy, or this guy?" you know, and
Yeah,
so and then, but I think that's important when you're trying to do something like that. If you don't know how to do something, you have to surround yourself by people that do know how to do those things.
absolutely. Absolutely. And that's not just in the outdoor industry. I mean, that's in everything. But what I've found over my years working in the outdoor industry, um, it's much tighter. And I always use the black eye analogy. that once you get a black eye, you're stuck with that black eye, and people's going to remember that. And that's
Yeah.
why I carry such a deep contact list, because if I call those people, they know that I'm gonna handle it right. I'm not gonna sell them out for a fish, and that stuff just stains your reputation. And I think, if any young anglers or young, outdoor upcoming professionals, don't sell out for the short game. Don't sell out. Period. It's a long term game. You got to look at the long game.
And that's so hard to do because, no matter what it is, this is true even on the water. Whenever you're out there trying to work on something that you're not very good at, and you get out there and you're like, man, I'm not catching fish. I'm just gonna throw this back on and go back to doing what I know how to do.
Yeah.
And but it's true in so many different areas of life. But that's something that I've recently started learning to do, getting back to the networking, because it's so important, and I've gotten so much better at it. And I don't know if I've talked to you. I maybe briefly did. Oh, I did. I told you the story. I was able to work with a high school bass fishing team out of Kentucky,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
it was just like this guy messaged me or comment on one of my posts of a little giveaway I was doing, and it turned into much more than that. And
Right.
all I had to do was reach out to some of the people that I interviewed on previous podcasts, and people have gone above and beyond to send them things. I had a guy out of Indiana named Austin Hover who I've become close friends with over all of it. I'm in Arkansas and he's in Indiana, and now we talk every day.
Yeah.
Um, and he sent them all kinds of stuff. And today, as a matter of fact, they got some rain gear from him because it's supposed to rain at their tournament this weekend, and just things like that. And it's so amazing the friendships that you can make, guys. The fun thing about being able to do podcasts is that you have technical difficulties and you got to work through them. And it seems to happen way more often than I want it to. But nonetheless, I think I've got it worked out. So back to what I was talking about, I've been able to make some connections through the whole thing with that high school fishing team. It's been really, really cool. Made friends, and they are willing to help out with that project that I'm working on that I was telling you about. Um, but nonetheless, man, I think that's important in life is to be able to find those people and make those connections. And man, it's been really cool for me to make a connection with you in kind of the same way. And I don't really exactly remember how you and I got connected. Did you reach out to me about getting on the podcast, or I can't exactly remember?
Well, you had posted a video on TikTok, and I liked it, and then you come back and like, one of my videos, and I think I somehow thought you were from Arkansas. I don't remember exactly the thought process.
Yeah.
Um, and then I messaged you on another video. I'm like, hey man, that was a really good podcast. Keep it up. And that, I
Yeah.
think that's just kind of what started, because it was on the Expo TikTok, and you're like, okay, tell me more. And so I think that's how I exchanged phone numbers, and that's how I got started.
Yeah, yeah, but guys, that's how it works right there, obviously, and I've been able to do that with several people, and it's really cool to be able to connect with people, especially in the bass fishing community. And man, I fish in local clubs, and I always thought that the bass fishing community was like a gatekeeping community where nobody was friendly, nobody helped each other
Yeah,
out, nobody talked about anything. And if you
yeah,
go to a club tournament, I promise you that's how it is.
yeah,
Because those guys want to beat you. And
absolutely.
these are guys who have been fishing on these lakes their entire lives. And when you're fishing in a regional club and you're only fishing two or three lakes, they're not going to tell you anything
No,
because you'll figure out how to beat them quick if you know what they know, especially
yeah,
those guys that have been out there for a long time.
right.
Having said that, the entire bass fishing community is not like that.
No, no, and I'll tell you, man, it's really funny you say that. I had a conversation with a guy on the water. Golly, it was back in October up on Bull Shoals, and I was fishing very, very differently than everybody else. And I had a guy come by and he kind of looked at me and then he kind of, like, and I caught a 4 pounder and then he come back by when he went down there and he turned around and he's like, "What are you catching them on?" And I said, "A minnow." And he kind of, kind of looked at me like, "I don't see a bobber." And so sure enough, he come back by a little bit like, we're talking 30, 45 minutes. He comes by, he goes, how did he say it? "Are you lead heading a minnow?" And I said, "Yeah." And so I caught a 3.5 pound spot and I picked it up and honestly, he thought I was minnow fishing 60 foot of water. And I showed him, the little minnow I was throwing, and he's like, "Oh man, you're one of them scopers." And I said, "No, I mean, you got to do what you got to do to catch a fish these days." But
Right.
it was funny. He actually, actually carried on a pretty good conversation because he went back day 2 and watched me, and it blew his mind how I was fishing.
Yeah, man, and man, it still blows my mind because I've tried to, and I haven't got to spend a lot of time on the water doing it. I want to, but I haven't scoping. But
Right.
it blows my mind at how people don't understand how hard it is to
It's
lead the
tough.
fish on a cast when the wind's blowing your boat across the water and you're trying to stay in the same spot and follow that fish. And dude, there's an
Abs-
art to it. There really is.
yeah, and I'll admit, and when because I watched live scope come on scene, and being with the history that I have in the outdoor industry, when you see a new product, you're always like, is it a gimmick or can you really use it? And all my friends were like texting me pictures, and I'm like, all right, I've got to get this. And so I was the guy, I was the proverbial old head out there, was fixing to take that rod and just break it over my knee. I got that frustrated with it. But I started using it, differently. I started, doing my, research, and that's when I started catching fish. I mean, I would feel confident going out in the morning and throwing a minnow at fish, knowing how to set up and how to approach it. Uh, and I never thought I would do that. I mean, I like throwing spinner baits, shallow. I like throwing top waters, the old Carolina rig.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I don't want to say I'm that old school guy, but I'm not afraid to do what I got to do to catch fish.
Yeah, well, and I think that's just with anything these days. Like technology is always advancing, and if you're not gonna grow with the times, and that's always the argument too with anything. Baseball, like they've manufactured some new wooden bats that help people hit the ball harder than they did, and the torpedo bats, like everything is progressing. People are getting stronger and faster.
Yeah.
For example, in baseball there was, I think in the last 10 years, they when they first started doing like these perfect game baseball camps, they would have 3 or 4 17-year-olds that could throw over 95 miles an hour.
God.
Now last year or 2 years ago they had 70 something kids under 17 who could throw 95 plus miles per hour.
Good
So
grief.
baseball's just like fishing, baseball, all of it, everything's changing and you got to learn to adapt. And I understand the argument about traditional fishing and keeping the heritage, but if we're really going to keep the heritage, and I'm sorry to get off on this, we don't have to stay on this long. If we're really going to keep the heritage, then we need to take away spot lock and side scan and
Yep.
down
Yep.
scan and
Yep.
we need to get
Yep.
rid of trolling motors and boat motors and just everybody needs to go out on canoes and catch fish.
You're
You
right.
know,
I had
so
a I had a guy at Chicken Creek at Lake Ten Killer 2 years ago,
yeah,
and I'd pull my bass head up to the dock, and I'm man, I'm picky about my boats. I'm picky about my everything in that boat, and I get made fun of it. That's all right. You ain't got to fish in my boat. Um, and my wife makes fun of me. I literally have boat shoes. I have shoes I wear from the truck to the boat, and then shoes that's never seen dirt. It's just how I keep my stuff. And anyways, the boat's tied up there, and I see him looking at it, and I kind of pick up my my progression towards the boat, and I said, is there a problem? And he's like, yeah, I bet you couldn't catch a fish without that 20-inch screen. And I said, yeah, I can. I don't need that screen. And he kind of looked at me funny. He goes, well, then why have you got this 35-inch TV screen? It was a Lowrance. I think it was the 16-inch. And I said, actually, I had a battery blow up in my face, and my eyesight's not that great. So I need I need all the pixels I can to look
Yeah.
down there at it. And he kind of looked at me. He goes, well, if you had a battery blow up in your face, how are you still here? I said, by the grace of the good Lord. I said, I'm going fishing. Have a good day, buddy. I'm not going to sit here and argue about it.
Right.
But he was the guy at weigh-in that was asking everybody, how'd you catch him? How'd you catch him? And I walked over and I said, they all threw a minnow. And he just kind of looked at me and shrugged, was just like, man, get out of here, smart aleck.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I've had this conversation with a lot of people. Luckily, in my club, it's a lot of guys who aren't throwing that yet, and I feel like this year, it's about to change, and I think the weights in our tournaments are about to change because there are going to be some guys who are starting to get proficient with it.
Right.
Um, but it's one of those things, and I hate to talk about it so much because I feel like my last few episodes have kind of commented on it, but it's just one of I don't know. I just wish that that conversation would die and people could just enjoy fishing, however you want to enjoy it.
Yeah. And that's, man, I go back to my roots. I mean, I was the proverbial fat kid on a Honda ATC 3-wheeler going up and down dirt roads, literally looking for ponds to fish. And I got, at that time, I had permission to fish anything I wanted to. And my first big fish, this is a funny story. I got my first boat, which was a water scamp. Okay. And had a trolling motor. I thought I was big dog, boy. I mean, you couldn't have hit me harder enough to get my chest, back. And I'm down here at a city lake, and I caught big old largemouth. I threw that purple worm, off. Just who I can't remember who I'd watched on Bassmaster, but threw that purple worm off in those lily pads, and like a thunk. And I mean, I'm reeling it, and I lifted it up. My mom's over there on the bank, and she thought I was messing with her, like I had a rubber boot, like I'm lifting up this rubber boot. And it took me forever to get through those lily pads. And she's like, "Oh my gosh!" So we took it to the gas station, literally weighed it on a set of meat scales. Okay, like you would see it, the next night after football practice, we go out there because my mom and dad, they had to drive me wherever I wanted to go with my water scamp. You couldn't park in the parking lot. There were so many boats covered up. And I'll never forget my dad saying, well, you got to find a new hidey hole. And I said, Dad, I didn't tell nobody. He goes, that guy at the gas station told everybody. And I'm like, all right, now I'm wising up. He knew where we caught it, obviously. You couldn't find a purple worm in 30 miles radius of this town. So, but I'm fortunate enough to know the fishing industry, way back when, the bass clubs and the camaraderie, and I'm not saying it doesn't exist now, but it seems to me that there's more divisiveness, there's more negativity, in this sport, and it just, man, let it lay. Just, you ain't got to talk bad about everything. There's good things in this sport. There's great people. There's great products, and man, I don't want to get off my soapbox on this, but that's one of the things that I want to bring back to the expo. It is just the camaraderie, that doing things differently, not always how they once were, but showing people that there's a different way to do the same thing, and it may be better.
Yeah, I think that's a great vision for what you're doing, and I think if you can get enough people in the room, especially around you, and uh, people that actually share the passion, and they can come out to your expo and see. I think that they would feel that presence, and just from you there, but from what you're trying to do. But man, I agree 100%. I don't know if it's just because of social media or what's happened that people have gotten so negative in the bass fishing world. And it seems to be not just in bass fishing, by the way. It's
No,
everywhere,
it's
but
not.
it's specifically in bass fishing. And I mean, there's people like Randy Blockett who are getting, getting famous just from being a hater.
Yeah,
Like every one
yeah,
of his videos are just trolling everybody
yeah,
all the time,
yeah. I,
especially people with live scope.
yeah, I remember a day we were on Grand Lake. I was fishing co-angler in the Central Pro-Am, and the tournament director was named Ernie Daughtery, a former Marine, and this dude was a tough SOB. But he always listened, and he listened very critically. And at takeoff, I don't remember the guy I was with, but here comes Randy Blockett, and he's got the old Captain Morgan pose going through there. Man, this dude's got some short shorts, and I remember thinking, golly, man, that dude, what's he wearing? And I looked at my guy, like, oh, that's old Randy there showing his legs. And I said, does he have clothes on? Does he have shorts? He's like, oh yeah, they get shorter the hotter it gets. So
Man,
yeah,
that guy collectively is probably the most hated guy in bass fishing right now. I mean,
yeah,
seriously, he really is.
yeah. But it's I don't. I mean, I don't want to say I know Randy or that I used to know him. But in today's world, we're all chasing those clicks. We're all chasing those views. And what better way to do it than to get underneath someone's skin? So if that's his marketing plan, it's working. It's working brilliantly. Um, I don't know. But it is what it is. Just shut up and go fish. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
Well,
simple as that.
we've had a guy that's become our president on the mantra that there's there's no such thing as bad publicity.
There's not.
You
Buddy,
know?
I'll save a conversation outside of a recording just for that.
Definitely, definitely. But anyhow, so you mind telling everybody when the expo is going to be?
Sure. It's going to be January 15th and 16th, 2027 at the Fort Smith Convention Center in Fort Smith, Arkansas.
And what can we expect? What can we expect there? What are some unique things you're trying to do? You talked about kind of making it. You wanted to bring back that old spirit of camaraderie to it. What's your idea of that? What are things going to look like?
Yeah. So I think I shared a picture with you, and we won't go into detail on that just yet. But
Yeah.
um, I've been to a lot of shows. I'm going to a lot of shows now. I'm not fishing at all this year, just taking the time to really see what expos are. And there's just a lot of stuff that it to me just doesn't have a place in that space. Um, we're heavily marketing, the brands, the services, the destinations, the people behind the scene. People have forgot to tell a story, and that's one of the things we're really going to hone in on, and we're going to hone in hard. The second aspect of it is you're not going to see a $500,000 boat there, um, especially not in area. I mean, I'm not saying that the money's not here, but who's going to buy it?
Right.
And I mean, we're looking at things from a very strategical aspect to where people walk in the door, they feel at home. There's no divisive. There's no there's not that big $500,000 boat that they can't afford. So we're not even going to look at it.
Right.
It's going to be kid centered, family centered. We're just looking at every aspect to make it the best possible expo that we can. And once we get past year one and year two, we're gonna lengthen it. We're gonna go to 3 and then 4 days, and we're gonna kick it off a certain way, and we're gonna end it a certain way. And the last day, we're looking to do a concert. We want it to end on a concert because the Fort Smith area has got such a great venue for that. They're known for that. An amazing downtown, shopping and the nightlife and all that. It's a perfect scenario. The other aspect is we're going to include a tournament. We want to include a tournament. We got the Arkansas River right there, which isn't that great a fishery in January, but we got Tin Killer. We got all these different lakes that are really close by.
Right.
So there's just a lot of elements, and man, we couldn't cover them in 3 podcasts. So
Right.
I mean, seriously, we're taking it from a very serious standpoint, but it's going to be about fun. It's going to be about the vendors and the brands and the people that believe in what we're doing, and then it goes to the attendees. And I think we're headed a really good direction with it.
Absolutely, man, and I look forward to coming down there. I've already talked to my wife about it, and obviously you and I have had some conversations. So
Yep, you're going
I
to be
look
there.
forward. I look forward to being a part of all of it and just seeing what it turns into. So
We just got to get
man,
past year 1. We got to make the first year, the first event the best we possibly can, to let people know that, hey, we're not here. It's not I don't want to look at it as a business. I want to look at it as a purpose.
right.
And that's exactly how we're approaching it.
Well, man, and the great thing about Arkansas is there are a lot of companies that represent locally that may not be the brand you see at Academy Sports, but there's still guys who make baits locally.
Yeah.
You've got several different boat factories that you can probably get representatives from, and things of that nature. Obviously, we're not that far from Bass Pro headquarters either, so there's a lot of probably people that you can touch base with and help
Yeah.
highlight some more of the local guys too,
That's
um
absolutely. Yeah.
like Brazalo, for example. Danny, man, he does great work, and it's there's something with him where he said that he struggled to really get introduced into the state of Arkansas. He actually does more business out of the state of Arkansas than he does in the state of Arkansas, which is mind boggling with
Yeah.
how many.
I hadn't heard of Danny Arballo. I don't know that name.
I know you do, but man, there's a lot of people who don't.
Yeah, Danny's a great guy, and he's a prime example. I think I met him at his very first show in Little Rock years ago, and I walked up to him, and we have a mutual friend, and Hunter introduced me to him. And I was looking at his stuff, and I said, "Man, you got some really good stuff." He's like, "Oh, it can always get better." I said, "It can always get better, but you got to start somewhere." And I bought a handful of spinner baits and some other stuff from him. And he called me. He got my number from my buddy. He's like, "Hey, you throw those spinner baits yet?" And I said, "They're all trashed." And like there was this long pause, and he goes, "Why?" And I said, "Man, those smallmouth love that spinner bait." I said, I've literally wrecked every spinner bait I got in 3 days. And we've been good friends ever since. And he's just he is the definition in my perspective of what I don't want to say a mom and pop, but the garage guy that literally started in his garage and has grown. I mean, he's all over now, and I couldn't be proud of the guy. I mean, he's a rock star.
All right, guys. Apparently, we're going to get to have multiple technical difficulties tonight, but he was talking about Danny at Brazalo, and man, you were talking about how he had made that spinner bait, and y'all had gotten closer, and now about how he's grown and all
Yeah,
that kind of stuff.
yeah. And Danny, I was in Little Rock last year, and I called him. I'm like, "Hey man, I'm gonna come by your shop." And so he's like, "Come on, man." And so I stopped by there, and of course, $300 later, um, I walk out of there, and Danny, and I know he's not like that just with me, but he cares about his product. He cares about his brand and his business, but he wants you to use his products to catch fish. And a prime example was I was in a tournament, and I was on a jig bite, and I called him. I'm like, "Hey man, can you overnight me some jigs?" He's like, "Yeah, where you at?" And I said, "I'm at Washita." And he goes, "Dude, you're only like an hour and a half from me." I said, "Yeah, I'm actually 15 minutes from your shop." He's like, I can't remember where he was. So he called another guy who met me that had some jigs. He literally gave me some jigs from his personal stash. And I paid Danny to send him, to kind of the triangle. I paid Danny to replenish his jigs, and I can't talk. I can't talk enough good about him. Him and his wife, they're just great people. They really are.
Well, I mean, the here's the best thing, the best way that I know how to say what kind of bait maker that he is, because I haven't personally got a relationship with him, but I've had enough conversations. When his goal, and from what I've heard, he succeeded, was to create a bladed jig that was better than a jackhammer,
Yep.
and he succeeded with it from everything I've heard.
Yeah.
When that's your goal, though, you have high expectations of yourself and your
Yeah.
products.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll call him every now and again. I'm like, man, nobody ever makes a good buzz bait. They're all just junk. And like he like this long pause, and he's like, dude. He goes, every time he goes, you got to come up with a better line. I said, well, how about I just stop calling you? Um, but Danny was one of my first biggest supporters. I called him. In fact, it was actually that trip down there. I said, man, what do you think about me doing an expo? And he turned and looked at me and he goes, where at? And I said, Fort Smith. And he goes, I'm in. I'm in. Because he knows the same things I do, but he knows more of today's expos than what I know. And again, I can't thank. I mean, he's a buddy, and he's a very good supporter of mine.
I'm working on getting him on soon. He's out on the road, I think, doing some expos and shows and stuff right now.
Yeah, I don't
Um,
know exactly where he's at. I think last weekend he was at the Noe Outdoor Show. He may be back in Arkansas by now.
Yeah, yeah, it's been a few weeks, so he just told me to get in touch with him, and of course I've got a tournament this weekend, so I've been pressed for time too. I haven't relined any of my rods or anything yet, so I've got to do all that tomorrow night because I got a tournament on Saturday. Um,
You better get with
but
it, buddy.
oh, I know, man, and the biggest thing is I got to go through and on all three spinning rods and tie some new leader knots, and that's probably my least favorite thing to do is tie new leader knots.
I hear you, man. Oh man, that can be painful.
Yes.
I,
So
I, I'm
go
actually the
ahead.
guy with two headlamps on. In the morning before takeoff, everybody's laughing at because I can't see the knots. And then I get like this little 17, 18-year-old whippersnapper comes over and he's like, "Give me tie that for you." I'm like, "Get out of my boat! I don't want you in here." And I'm just messing with him, and he kind of takes it personal. But I feel your pain, buddy.
Man, and I'll tell you, the thing that I was really expecting a lot more rain than what we're going to get over here from all this stuff.
Yeah.
And I was expecting the water at Norfolk to be really, really muddy, which they did get 3 inches of rain. But looking at some of the videos of the guys that were out on the lake today and those creeks, they weren't very muddy. So I know, I was
Wow.
surprised. So
Mm.
I had a game plan of like what I was planning on doing, and the water's not muddy, and so now I'm like I'm gonna have to see the water, you know.
Yeah. I
So
love I love Norfolk in April, especially early April after a big rain.
yes.
Golly. Oh man.
Dude, they were tearing them up today. A guy had posted a video of or a picture. Well, first he posted a video first of the run-ins, and then he posted a picture of the fish that they caught, which I
Right.
thought was crazy because there were several people in the comments like, "I know where that is," and it was like, it,
Technology. Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah.
anyhow,
Yeah.
well, Jason, is there anything else you'd like to touch on before we kind of wind down here?
Man, I'm good. Unless you got any questions or whatever, I'm always up for a good conversation, buddy. I really appreciate what you're doing with this podcast and doing for the outdoor industry, not just the fishing, not just Arkansas, but man, you're on to something here, and just keep going with it. You're doing something good.
Well, I appreciate that, man. I think when you truly love something, uh, and just like what you're doing, when you truly love something, you try to find ways to give back and help other people do
Absolutely.
the same thing. So that's kind of my mantra on everything. And so again, I appreciate you kind of letting me be a little part of what you're doing as well.
Sure, sure. And we're again, we're still in the beginning stages. It's March, but we're going to be in June, July quick.
Yeah.
So if there's anybody out there that's got questions about the show, you're hesitant about a first time show, call me, email me, hit me up on social media. All of our socials are on the website. We're easy to find. It's always at Arkansas Outdoor Expo. And I'll be glad to talk with anybody who wants, more information.
Yeah, guys, seriously, go check it out. It'd be great to have a big expo that represents the state of Arkansas. Get all the local businesses out here and everything, and help Jason make that as great as he can. He's a great guy, and from just for me, the things that he's done, I think that it would be a great showing for us to get out there and support him and help him to make it the best expo in the state of Arkansas.
That's our goal. Give us 3 years, and that's the plan. That's the plan.
Well, man, I appreciate you taking the time out of your evening to come sit down with me. Albeit a couple of technical difficulties there, but for Jason with the Arkansas Outdoor Expo, this is Tyler Callahan with the American South Fishing Podcast. Thank you for stopping in, and I hope everybody has a great weekend.
Thanks, Tyler.